Hello and welcome. You're watching the Business Today show with me, Sakshi Patra. First up, the top news we're tracking for you tonight. India's G20 win lifts Nifty to a record high as it hits 20,000 mark for the very first time. Experts believe the rally may continue. Equity inflows hit a 5-month high, rising to 20,245 crore rupees in August. SIPs have again hit a record high of 15,813 crore rupees. The 12th annual India-UK Economic Financial Dialogue held in New Delhi a day after the G20 summit. UK-India Infra-Financing Bridge launched in the backdrop of great chemistry between Prime Minister Modi and Prime Minister Sunak. Good news for buyers. Investors can now buy gold at 5,923 rupees per gram till this Friday in this new tranche of the RBI's sovereign gold bond scheme. Car sales remain in the fast lane. August sees highest ever sales of passenger vehicles of over 3,59,000 units, a near 10% surge. And Apple will be launching its new line of iPhones on Tuesday evening, and we will bring you live coverage on Business Today television. Also, Adani Group market cap surged to a 7-month high, adding a whopping 47,050 odd crore rupees in today's session, to surging to 11 lakh crore rupees now. Straight on to the first story tonight. Gita Gopinath, the first Deputy Managing Director of the International Monetary Fund, in an exclusive conversation with Rahul Kanwal, News Director at India Today, says that India will become the world's third largest economy by 2028 financial year and expects India to contribute 15% of the global growth in the current financial year. Listen in to this excerpt.
Let's spend a moment on your reading of the Indian economy at the moment. Seen as one of the key growth engines of the global economy. India projected to grow at 6.1% 2023, 6.3% next year. But concerns also being raised about private investment, and private investment not kickstarting in quite the way the government would have liked. So do you want to share your reading of how you think the economy is doing at this moment?
Now, India is and continues to be an engine of global growth. So we have, for this fiscal year, we expect growth to be over 6%. And two factors that are driving it are public investment, which has been quite strong, and resilient consumption spending. So I think those are the two important factors. I mean, our estimate is that for this year, for 2023, India's growth would explain about 15% of global growth, right? So that is a substantial chunk of global growth that's being driven by India at this point. But to get to much higher levels of per capita income and to get to continued high levels of growth, you need structural reforms, and that's going to be very important. And there are multiple fronts on which these reforms will be needed. Those will be needed also to attract private investment. You know, a lot has been put in place in terms of improving the ease of doing business, but there is still a lot more that needs to be done.
India and the United States also announced a critical alliance which is aimed at propelling 6G technology into the spotlight. This marks a milestone in the journey towards the next generation wireless networks for high-speed internet. And here's a slice of what TCS COO NG Subramaniam, the chairman of the Bharat 6G Alliance, had to say to Business Today Television's managing editor Sidhant Sarabi.
Explain to our viewers, sir, what is the significance of this? Because several people would say, abhi to 5G ho hi raha hai. Why are we now talking about 6G at this stage?
Because, increasingly telecommunication is going to become horizontal, on which every single vertical, whether it is banking, financial services, manufacturing, healthcare, every single vertical is going to be relying a lot more on the telecom as a backbone on which innovation, growth, efficiency, all the three pillars will actually take place. So in that context, I think, lot more innovation in the way in which the 6G technology will work is going to happen. Connectivity is going to be significantly improving. Coverage will be significantly improving. But beyond the connectivity and coverage, which promises something like in 6G will be 10 times at least faster than 5G, the experience is going to be the key. And adding to the trusted and connectivity, coverage and experience, there is going to be an element of sustainability, which is also going to be extremely crucial. In that sense that, look, the 6G networks will be a lot more intelligent, all enabled and defined by software more than the hardware. Until now, the technology is a lot more enabled by the hardware, while there is an element of software which is there. But increasingly, the network, the radios, everything is going to be more and more configurable and defined by software, which is India's strength. The software is also going to be augmented with a lot of artificial intelligence, machine learning, deep learning, and algorithms that will make the network itself will be, highly intelligent, while the network will continue to be heterogeneous, will need to be interoperating, and it will become a lot more self-healing, always on, and with embedded processing capability on the edge. Right? In this context, the difficulties involved in standards definition need not be overemphasized. To achieve the desired level of flexibility, adaptability, interoperability, open collaboration between academia, industry, startups, society, and the government is crucial. In that context, the alliance between Bharat 6G Alliance and NextG Alliance in the United States is a great step in the right direction.
Maruti Suzuki Chairman R.C. Bhargava says India is well poised on the biofuel development front. Speaking to Business Today TV a day after the Delhi Declaration and announcements on the Biofuel Alliance and a global connectivity corridor, the veteran Indian business executive said that the corridor will open up avenues for the Indian automobile industry, and such developments at world stage becomes easier for businesses to flourish.
How do you envision the developments, especially the two major developments on the Biofuel Alliance and also on the economic corridor? What does it entail for the automobile sector and especially for the Maruti Suzuki?
Well, I think any steps which are taken on a global scale, which ease the business of countries working together and sharing the production facilities and the market for each other's benefits, I think is good for all industry. And what has happened in this G20 is that a lot of steps have been taken which I think will have consequences of great importance to all industry, including the automobile industry, in the coming years. Because as we have been saying from Maruti for many a couple of years now at least, India is eminently suited to develop biofuel resources. We have the largest cattle population, we have the largest agricultural waste. These are all renewable raw materials for biogas and biofuels. And therefore an alliance in this area is of the highest importance for the future of carbon neutrality, for the benefit of the smaller car users, and for providing fuels which are totally green and totally renewable. The economic corridor, of course, has some years to go before it becomes a reality. But once that happens, it again will open up a lot of opportunities for the automobile sector and other sectors.
Sure. Mr. Bhargava, also with the discussions around supply chain resilience at the G20, how does Maruti Suzuki plan to adapt different strategies now, considering the supply chain issues have eased out? But do you think with these two special announcements, do you think in the near future we can expect for the supply chain issues to be completely sorted out?
nothing is ever completely sorted out, Chetan. But we're certainly moving in the right direction. And India has been becoming a part of the global supply chains. Our auto components industry has made tremendous strides over the last few years. We have substantial export of components from India. And I think the measures which have been accepted in this G20 are all directed towards making it possible for countries like India to participate to a much larger extent in strengthening the global supply chains, de-risking the supply chains from dependence on limited sources and such things.
Now, the Indian stock markets have also given a big salute to the G20 win for India as the Nifty hit a record high of 20,000 for the very first time. Remember, it took 52 sessions for the Nifty to go from 19,000 to 20,000 today. The Sensex and the Nifty have ended in the green for the sixth consecutive session, the longest gaining streak in the last 2 months, led by Reliance Industries, L&T and HDFC Bank. The BSE Sensex ended higher by 528 points at 67,127 points, while the Nifty gained 176 points to close the day at 19,996 after achieving that historic 20,000 mark. The top stocks on the Nifty index were Adani Ports, Adani Enterprises, Axis Bank, Apollo Hospitals and Power Grid, while the top losing stocks were Coal India, Bajaj Finance, ONGC and L&T. And as the Nifty hits 20,000, the big question now is, will this rally sustain? And what is the best way for investors to now approach these record high stock markets? Watch this segment from our special series, Market Masters, where my colleague Shailendra Bhatnagar and I spoke to Atul Suri, CEO of Marathon Trends, earlier in the day to find out where will money be made in the markets right now.
What, according to you, would be an optimistic estimate on the Nifty?
Yeah, so, I have been actually on media and been talking about a target of around 21,500 to 22,000 on the Nifty, which even from these levels is around a good, I would say 10% plus from here, which I think is very good because if you look at it from an index point of view, from after the move that we've had from around 17,000 that was there sometime in March to where it is right now, I feel that even if we have another 10% upside, on the index per se, that's great because also what we are realizing is that in this rally, the Nifty's performance is muted by virtue of the composition. Let me explain this, that if you look at the two principal contributors to the Nifty, one is banks and second is IT. And if you look at the large cap banks and the large cap IT, you'll realize that these two are actually not doing much. In fact, they're almost sideways. And though the market is not at lifetime highs, lifetime highs being just about as recent as 20,000 or whatever, but a lot of sectors and stocks are at lifetime highs. So for me personally, the broader market is at lifetime highs. The Nifty is not there. The Nifty's performance is muted because your two principal drivers have actually been sideways. So if I say a 10% up move in the index from here, I feel overall there'll be a lot more gains in the portfolio. I think there'll be a lot more opportunities. And the most impressive part of this rally is that it's very broad-based. One is, of course, headline numbers, indexes that we look at, but breadth is very important. So you are seeing excellent sectorial breadths. You see the number of sectors that are making new highs and excellent stock breadth also. See, the last month of August, if you see the index was, I think, just 0.5% negative or something. It was a consolidation or a time-wise correction. But you'll find that stocks continue to make lifetime highs. Sectors continue to make lifetime highs. So I think for me, the breadth is actually more encouraging than just the Nifty. That's why I feel that a 10% up move in Nifty will be very, very good for investors because I think a lot of stocks and sectors will outperform by miles.
I wanted to actually ask your views. Over the last 48 hours, you would have witnessed the way the world has been watching India. amid the G20 summit. I think Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, history in the making, India's presidency, 100% consensus on the declaration, the way India has emerged as the voice of the global south. How has all of this really reflected on the Indian markets? Do you see a meaningful reflection of that in the coming months or so because of the G20 too?
See, I think that it is definitely a sentiment booster. It's very important. And India as a country, as a race, the whole shift from India to Bharat, I think is very, very symbolic. And it's a mindset shift. The big difference that I'm noticing is the mindset shift. All of the physical assets are nothing but follow or what humans do. And if humans and a race, we start thinking differently, we start thinking with confidence, I think that's the biggest shift. As I said, it's not the tangibles, the intangibles that create revolutions. It's the ideas and beliefs that do. And I think we are transitioning to that. As far as the impact on the market goes, yes, it definitely has a positive sentiment and a rub-off effect. But specifically, some sectors or some themes get affected more. And since I'm a trend investor, for me, that is very, very important. What I think, Sakshi, is that what has really shifted, or what I'm noticing in the last up move for the last few months is that for many years, Indian markets were dominated by a few stocks which were external driven, which were export driven. So I mentioned IT large caps and a lot of other sectors, which were more about exports and opportunities globally. But what has changed in the last 3 to 6 months is that the sectors that are leading are actually internal driven. And the bet now is about growth in the Indian economy per se. For example, the most spectacular sector move in the last 1 to 2 months has been the PSUs, right? Whether it is defense stocks or whether it's your rail stocks, etc. It's been spectacular. This is like the most dog sector. Nobody made money. Most of these stocks were almost a decade. And what is changing is the decadal shift that is happening. So the trends that are emerging also are changing. But it's not just a few large IT stocks. They will do well. They will do well in the future. They've been the biggest wealth creators. But the shift that is happening is more inward looking, more India story, more manufacturing related, and more sectors, themes, and stocks which have been ignored for a decade. And that is why when something gets ignored for a decade and does a big basing formation, those rallies don't end in a few months or weeks. These rallies continue to be larger. And that reflects with your question of the theme that what is shifting. I think there's a massive shift that is happening in the markets, and we can see that in the sectors and themes playing out. There are sectors and themes which never did well for 10, 20 years. If you ask most market veterans, the moment you said PSUs, they would say, no way, man. Like, lot of false starts. So many, everyone has bought, sold, burned themselves, and like just doesn't want to get into PSUs. But you see from last year it was PSU banks, this year it's some different set of stocks. But they have been the biggest wealth creator. And that is a reflection of the shift that is happening in the Indian mindset, mentality, and more.
Remember, you can watch the full exclusive interview on our social media and YouTube channels, Business Today. And with that, we'll wrap up this special edition right here. But do stay tuned on to India Today to catch all the news from the world of general news too.